Now back, this is Senior English B, and we want to review now real quickly the poetry that we have not yet covered of Lord Byron. I'm going to be working at 8:36 at 8:38. That's where I'll be now, 8:36, 8:38. If you've got annotations over these two poems, I recommend you have them in front of you. My understanding is that you're about to hand in these annotations to me in your packet number 4, which means you should be doing some in-class notes on those annotations right now. For those of you that don't have annotations over these two texts, go ahead and get a blank sheet of paper out right now, and let's at least contrive something. That will allow you to change the information on your cover sheet for example, when we two parted, from incomplete to partial, right? You may not have the complete annotation done, but at least you got something done, right? To try and get you a few extra points. All right, let's go to work. Lord Byron's When We Two Parted, I want to point out right away, there's some, and I'm going to go quickly because I don't have a lot of time. There's some interesting things going on with form here. I want to point out to you, notice the line breaks. Go ahead and write that down at 2B. Notice the line breaks, and when I finish reading this poem for the first time, I'm going to ask you, why do you think that Byron intentionally broke up his lines to make them very short? Notice the first two lines only have 4 words in them, right? Let's take a look. When we two parted in silence and tears, half broken hearted to sever for years, pale grew thy cheek and cold, colder thy kiss. Truly that hour foretold sorrows to this. The dew of the morning sunk chill on my brow. It felt like the warning of what I feel now. Thy vows are all broken, and light is thy fame. I hear thy name spoken and share in its shame. They name thee before me, a knell to mine ear. A shudder comes o'er me, why wert thou so dear? They know not I knew thee, who knew thee too well. Long, long shall I rue thee, too deeply to tell. In secret we met, in silence I grieve, that thy heart could forget, thy spirit deceive. If I should meet thee after long years, how should I greet thee? With silence and tears. Okay, right away, let's just point out, this is a poem in which he says what? He's writing to who? To his ex-girlfriend. And what does he say to her? Thanks for jacking me. That's right. Thanks for jacking me. Okay, I appreciate that. And why would Byron, when he wrote this poem, have broken his line? Notice the opening line. When we two parted in silence and tears is a full line of poetry. Half broken hearted to sever for years is a full line of poetry. The entire poem is broken up because the poem is about breaking up. Right. So notice at 2B. Notice at 2B. Byron is playing a game with the form of the poem. Is he happy? Write down an answer before you answer out loud. Is he happy or sad about this breakup? See, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. You're going to jot down answers and then we'll talk. Is he happy or sad about this breakup? Is it kind of like, yay, I've got freedom and liberty after the girl jacked me, broke. Or is it more like, okay. Question 2.
What was that again?
Question 2. We'll leave Judice's love life out of this. Question 2. Whose idea? Now this may not be so easy, harder to describe. From the poem, whose idea was it that the breakup should happen? And can you guess why it happened from this poem? Whose idea was it? Was it his idea? Was it her idea?
It's probably her.
You know. And what went down that you think led to the rupture, the breakup in the first place? And then finally, third question. Is he over her? Do you have any sense this guy has moved on? That Byron, if Byron is the actual speaker of the poem, he has reason to believe that he actually wrote this as a real situation. Is he done? Is he over? Is he over? Like, is he beyond her? And do you have a sense of how you know that he's not? And do guys ever really get beyond their breakups? Who, finally, fourth question. This is more of a 3B question. This is more personal opinion. In the end, who's more affected, do you think, by breakups when there really was a relationship there, when there was true love there? Who is more long-term wounded, do you think? Is it the guy? Is it the girl? Is it equal? Is it the one who does the breaking up, or is it the one who gets the phone call that says, I think we should just be friends? Is it the one who's told it's over, or is it the one who does the breaking up, who long-term is more affected negatively? Let's go back now real quickly and try and answer these questions. In the poem itself, do you have any sense who's responsible for the breakup? Point to the actual lines in the poem where you get a sense of whose idea it was. What do you think, Lang?
I think it was hers.
Why?
Because it says, why weren't thou so dear? Like.
In other words, it's clear that he's upset about the fact that he doesn't have her anymore.
And maybe it's like she cheated on him, so he's like, why weren't you so dear to me?
Notice the word isn't cheat in this poem. What's the word?
Broken vows.
Yes. What does that mean to you?
She went behind his back and she...
There's also regret too, though.
There is regret. There is regret. Keller says, does that seem to suggest to you, Ms. Keller, that he is the one responsible for the breakup, or that she is the one responsible for the breakup? What do you guess from this poem?
I don't know. Because he has a feeling of regret, so maybe he did it. Let's say.
What do you make of this interesting thing in the third stanza? They name thee before me, a knell to mine ear. A shudder comes o'er me, why wert thou so dear? They know not I knew thee, who knew thee too well. Long, long shall I rue thee too deeply to tell. In secret we met. What does this tell you about this relationship? And apparently Byron had a number of these kinds of flings, where he's totally in love with someone.
Jesus missed.
No one knows. That's right. That's right. That's right. This is a secret relationship, totally secret. I once had a senior that said, you know, this happened to me, he said. In my junior year, he said, I dated a girl. None of the friends that I have, 0, knew we were together. And we had dated, he said, for a couple of months. None of the friends that I had, none of the friends that she ran with in her circle knew about me. We were able to completely keep this a complete and total secret. We dated for a couple of months. It got very serious, but then we decided to break it off. It was mutual, but we both were devastated by the decision. But he said that both sets of friends would talk about the other one, not realizing. This is what he's saying. They talk about her. They do not know that they're causing him pain by talking about her, because nobody understands what went down. Notice in the second stanza, thy vows are all broken, and light is thy fame. I hear thy name spoken and sharing its shame. Look at the last stanza. In secret we met, in silence I grieve. What does the word grieve mean? He ain't over, is he? He clearly ain't over yet, is he? Keep reading. That thy heart could forget, thy spirit deceive. Ah, there it is, huh? Who's responsible for this? Right, there it is, right? Notice it's two things along with broken vows. It's that she could forget and that she could deceive. He says finally, if we meet after long years, how will I greet you? I'm not going to say anything, but I'm going to be really, really sad. Who do you think is more affected long term when relationships end? Is it guys more than girls?
Well, this poem sounds like it.
Natural.
It's guys. We like to build this big old rough shell around our hearts, but when someone pecks through it, it's hard to fill that little tiny hole that they.
Wow, Mr. Harder is impressed. Maybe Mr. Lang should just be the one teaching this class. Wow, and he even went like this. He said, when you build a shell around the... We're very impressive. Now, it's interesting because the reputation is guys are not at all affected by breakups. They are tough. They don't really care. They kind of are like just having fun. And the girls are the ones who invest all this energy and time, and then they're the ones who are most sad. Mr. Lang says, this poem seems to suggest Byron was a pretty tough cat. He dies fighting in a war of his own choosing, nonetheless. And yet, it's pretty evident that he's upset. Wait a minute. What about this follow-up observation? Is he upset because he didn't break up with her? Something, by the way, he did a lot. Byron was a player. He liked messing around with women and then leaving them. He liked that. But notice here, it's the opposite. Is that why he's so upset?
It could be he's never been.
He didn't get the chance to break up with her. She broke up with him. First one to the punch.
Either that or it's never happened to him before, and maybe he was starting to fall for her actually, and then
A
she...
fine observation. Mr. Lane comes fully loaded with his blanket today. Well done. Yes, that's right. That's right. So he says, look, it's very simple. When a guy has never really experienced love, only lust, and then all of a sudden he experiences love, and then it ends kind of tragically for him, it affects him far greater. Are you suggesting that the moral to this poem is for guys, don't ever fall in love?
The thing why everybody thinks girls fall harder and faster or whatever is because girls, when they break up, they like to go to their friends and cry to their friends and stuff like
You're
that.
saying guys don't have that? Which
we go home
I
and
was
we
just
punch
gonna say,
walls
some
and
girls
then
don't do
cry
that
about it
thing.
in our sleep.
Or,
We just don't tell
Mr.
anybody
Lang
because
says
that's not
guys
bad.
go home and punch holes in walls and cry about it in our bedroom, or follow Byron. What's Byron do? What's
Write a
Byron?
poem.
He does. He writes a poem about it, but notice who he addresses the poem to.
Goes out and he finds another one.
Who does he address the poem to? He addresses the poem to the woman. Byron will publish this poem after he writes it. Right, now Harder's getting the point. But notice, her name isn't mentioned, right? So there's nobody of Byron's readership, which was prodigious. I mean, when Byron published new poetry, everybody read his poems.
So when she's flipping through the
Right,
pages,
now Len's getting it. That's right, this is one of the, that's right, this is one of the great I Gotcha poems of all time. So there she is, she's flipping through his latest book of poems, and all of a sudden she reads, oh, and we two part. Oh.
she had the last.
Right. So who in the end wins? This is a perfect example of how writing a poem allows you to win, because notice, we're reading this poem. She is clearly dead and gone, and by the way, nobody really knows exactly who this woman was. There's a lot of speculation, but there's still debate about exactly who it is that he's talking about, or maybe he's just capturing the whole notion of breaking up. Real quickly, I want to go to page 838. And I want to point out real quickly for you, do you see that word on 838? By the way, this is huge for your notes. Do you see that word, and I'm working now at 2B. Do you see that word apostrophe to the ocean? Does everyone see that on 838? I want you to write the word apostrophe down at 2B. We're going to hear this word regularly. I'm going to define it for you now. Now, hello, of course, we all know in grammar study what an apostrophe is, that little mark. But this is a different use of the word. An apostrophe is when a person writes a poem speaking directly to a non-human object, what we call an inanimate object. An apostrophe is a poem when the poet speaks directly to something that's not human, but pretends like it is. So for example, if I write a poem where I'm talking to Ruthie's tree, obviously Ruthie's tree can't understand me, but we play a game in poetry. We do this all the time. Notice Lord Byron writes an apostrophe to the ocean. He writes directly to the ocean as if the ocean can understand him. Look on page 840. He says to the ocean, last stanza, and I have loved the ocean and